Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that every single person on Earth had disappeared. No family, no friends, no strangers, no voices, no messages, no one. At first, it might sound peaceful. No arguments, no responsibilities, no stress. But after a few days, your brain would begin doing something extraordinary. You would become anxious, restless, unable to concentrate. You might even start talking to yourself or hearing sounds that aren't really there. Why? Because your brain doesn't treat loneliness as an emotion. It treats loneliness as a survival emergency. In fact, feeling lonely may have saved your ancestors' lives thousands of times. So why does being alone hurt almost like physical pain? And why did evolution build a brain that desperately needs other people? The answer begins long before cities, long before language, long before humans became the rulers of Earth. Imagine you're living 200,000 years ago. The African savanna stretches endlessly in every direction. Tall grass hides hungry predators. Nights are freezing. Food is never guaranteed. Now imagine one simple change. You're completely alone. No hunting partners. No one to watch while you sleep. No one to warn you about lions hiding nearby. No one to help if you're injured. At that moment, you are no longer just lonely. You are in immediate danger. For almost all of human evolution, being separated from your group dramatically reduced your chances of survival. A single human could rarely hunt large animals alone, could rarely defend against predators, could rarely raise children successfully. Survival depended on cooperation. Every shared meal, every campfire, every hunting expedition, every sleeping circle made life just a little safer. This is why many evolutionary scientists believe loneliness evolved as an alarm system. Just as hunger tells you to find food, and thirst tells you to find water, loneliness tells you to find people. It isn't a flaw. It's a biological warning. A signal saying, return to your tribe. Because for ancient humans, isolation wasn't simply uncomfortable, it was often deadly. But here's something remarkable. If loneliness evolved to protect us, why does it feel so emotionally painful? Why didn't evolution simply make us think, I should probably find someone? Instead, it created one of the strongest emotional experiences in the human mind. And the reason reveals something extraordinary about how your brain measures survival. Imagine touching a hot stone. Pain shoots through your hand. You pull away instantly. Simple. Pain exists to protect your body. Now imagine something completely different. You're sitting in a crowded room. Hundreds of people surround you. Everyone is talking. Everyone is laughing. Yet somehow, you feel completely alone? Your body is perfectly safe. No predator. No injury. No hunger. No thirst. Yet something still hurts. Modern neuroscience has uncovered something astonishing. When people experience intense social rejection or loneliness, some of the same brain regions involved in physical pain become active. Not exactly the same network, but remarkably similar ones. One important area is the anterior cingulate cortex. This region helps your brain detect problems that threaten your well-being. Whether the threat comes from physical injury or from losing important social connections. To your brain, being abandoned by your group once carried consequences almost as serious as being physically wounded. That makes perfect evolutionary sense. Imagine an early human hunter who breaks a leg. The injury is dangerous. Now imagine another hunter who is perfectly healthy, but is permanently rejected by the tribe. No food sharing, no protection, no allies. Over time, that second hunter may face an equally deadly future. Evolution didn't simply reward people who avoided predators. It rewarded people who avoided isolation. That's why loneliness doesn't feel like a small inconvenience. It feels urgent, persistent, difficult to ignore. Just like hunger, you can ignore being hungry for a little while. Eventually, your body forces you to act. Loneliness works in a surprisingly similar way. The longer social isolation continues, the stronger the signal becomes. Your brain pushes you toward reconnection. Call someone, find your family, return to your community, rebuild relationships. Because throughout almost all of human history, being socially connected dramatically increased the chances of staying alive. But here's where things become surprisingly complicated. If loneliness exists to bring us back together, why do lonely people often withdraw even further from others. Why does the very alarm designed to reconnect us sometimes make us isolate ourselves even more? The answer lies inside one of evolution's oldest survival strategies. Imagine you're walking alone through the prehistoric wilderness. No familiar voices, no footprints, no campfire smoke rising in the distance. Your tribe is gone. At first, you would probably try to find them. But as the hours pass, something inside your brain begins to change. Not because you're weak, because evolution assumes something terrible may have happened. Perhaps your group abandoned you. Perhaps a predator attacked. Perhaps another tribe drove you away. Whatever the reason, being alone suddenly becomes the biggest problem you face, and your brain responds accordingly. Modern researchers believe prolonged loneliness doesn't simply make people sad. It changes how the brain processes the world. You become more alert, more cautious, more sensitive to possible danger. Psychologists sometimes call this hypervigilance. Your attention shifts automatically toward anything that might threaten you. A stranger's facial expression, a suspicious sound, a movement in the bushes. Your brain begins assuming the worst. Because for most of human history, that assumption often kept people alive. Imagine hearing footsteps behind you. If you're surrounded by trusted friends, you probably stay relaxed. But if you've been alone for days, every sound feels dangerous. Every shadow becomes suspicious. Evolution preferred false alarms over fatal mistakes. It's far better to overreact to a harmless noise than ignore the one predator that actually intends to kill you. That ancient survival system still exists today. The problem is, modern loneliness activates the same ancient program. Someone doesn't reply to your message. A group conversation ends without including you. You feel left out at work, ignored at school, rejected by someone you care about. Your prehistoric brain quietly whispers, something is wrong. You're losing your tribe without realizing it. You begin scanning every interaction for signs of rejection. Did they ignore me on purpose? Why didn't they smile? Did I say something wrong? That constant monitoring becomes exhausting. Ironically, the very system designed to help you reconnect can make social situations feel even more stressful. You become more defensive, more anxious, less willing to take social risks. And that's where loneliness creates its cruelest trap. The people who most need connection often become the people most afraid of reaching out, because their ancient survival brain is trying to protect them from being rejected again. But here's the surprising twist. If loneliness can reshape the brain, can friendship reshape it back? Imagine you've been wandering alone for days. Every sound makes you jump. Every shadow looks dangerous. You barely sleep. You barely eat. Then, far across the grasslands, you see smoke, a campfire, your people. Almost instantly, everything changes. Your shoulders relax. Your breathing slows. Your heartbeat begins returning to normal. The predators haven't disappeared. The world hasn't become safer overnight. But your brain believes something incredibly important has happened. You're no longer alone. Modern science shows something remarkably similar still happens today. A supportive conversation, a hug from someone you trust, a close friendship. Even simply knowing someone is willing to help you can reduce stress throughout the body. Levels of stress hormones often begin to fall. Your nervous system shifts away from constant survival mode. You feel calmer, safer, more capable of thinking clearly. In other words, connection doesn't just make you happier. It changes your biology. One reason involves a hormone called oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. Whenever humans experience trust, affection, or meaningful social connection, oxytocin helps strengthen those relationships. It encourages cooperation, reduces fear, and increases feelings of safety. Of course, oxytocin isn't magical. Human relationships are far more complex than any single chemical. But together with many other biological systems, it helps explain why social bonds can feel so powerful. Your brain isn't simply rewarding friendship because friendship feels nice. It's rewarding behaviors that helped our ancestors survive. Think about an injured hunter returning to camp, alone. The injury could become fatal. Surrounded by family, others bring food, protect against predators, help with recovery. In evolutionary terms, close relationships often functioned like life insurance. That's why losing them hurts so deeply. and gaining them feels so rewarding. Even today, people with strong social connections often cope better with stress than those facing every challenge alone. Not because life becomes easier, but because the burden is shared. For millions of years, our ancestors rarely survived by carrying every problem themselves. They survived by carrying those problems together. But here's an interesting question. If humans evolved to depend so heavily on social groups, why do some people actually enjoy being alone? Imagine two prehistoric humans. Both leave the tribe for a day. The first becomes anxious within hours. Every strange sound feels threatening. The second feels perfectly comfortable. They quietly gather berries, explore new territory, watch birds, enjoy the silence. Who's behaving correctly? Surprisingly, both are. Evolution rarely creates a single perfect personality. Instead, it produces variation. Some individuals are naturally more social. Others are naturally more independent. Both strategies can help a group survive. Think about the bold explorer. While everyone else stays close to camp, this person discovers a new water source, finds fresh hunting grounds, or notices danger before anyone else. Now think about the deeply social individual. They strengthen relationships, resolve conflicts, keep the tribe united. Both personalities contribute in different ways. That's why psychologists often describe introversion and extroversion as natural variations, not defects. Introverts don't necessarily dislike people. Many simply recharge by spending time alone. Extroverts often recharge through social interaction. Neither strategy is inherently better. The key difference is choice. Choosing to spend a quiet afternoon alone feels very different from feeling isolated against your will. That's an important distinction. Solitude is usually voluntary. Loneliness is not. You can spend an entire weekend hiking alone and feel peaceful, or spend 5 minutes in a crowded party and feel painfully lonely. The number of people around you isn't what matters most. What matters is whether you feel genuinely connected. Your brain isn't counting faces. It's measuring belonging. Do these people understand me? Can I trust them? Would they help me if something went wrong? Those questions mattered thousands of years ago. They still matter today. This is why social media creates such an interesting paradox. Never before in history have humans been connected to so many people, yet many researchers report that loneliness remains widespread. Because your ancient brain wasn't designed to measure followers, likes, or notifications. It evolved to recognize something much older. Real relationships, real trust, real cooperation. And that's something no technology can completely replace. But here's perhaps the most fascinating discovery of all. Loneliness isn't unique to humans. Several other highly social animals experience something surprisingly similar. Imagine a young wolf separated from its pack. At first, it searches frantically, calling, listening, following every scent. Now imagine a baby elephant losing sight of its family. It immediately becomes distressed, calling loudly, running in panic, trying desperately to reunite. Or think about a chimpanzee suddenly isolated from its social group. Researchers have observed behaviors that look remarkably familiar. Reduced play, less exploration, higher stress, greater anxiety. These animals don't simply miss company. Their biology changes. This tells us something fascinating. Loneliness didn't suddenly appear when humans evolved. The roots of social attachment are much older. Many highly social animals depend on groups for survival. Wolves hunt together. Elephants protect their young together. Chimpanzees groom one another. Dolphins cooperate while hunting. Across evolution, living together often proved safer than living alone. But humans push this strategy further than almost any other species. We don't just cooperate to hunt. We cooperate to teach, to invent, to build, to create stories, to raise children over many years, to pass knowledge across generations. Our survival became deeply intertwined with other minds. That's why loneliness feels especially powerful in humans. We're not simply losing companions. We're losing access to the very network our brains evolved to depend on. Anthropologists sometimes describe humans as an ultra-social species. Almost every major achievement in human history, language, agriculture, medicine, science, art, technology, required enormous numbers of people working together. No single individual could invent civilization alone. Every generation inherited knowledge from countless others. Your ability to read, use tools, or understand this video depends on thousands of years of accumulated cooperation. In a way, every human brain is partly built by other human brains. And perhaps that's why loneliness feels so unsettling. Because somewhere deep inside, your ancient nervous system still remembers a world where surviving alone was almost impossible. But here's the final question. If loneliness evolved to keep us alive, why does it still exist today? Even when many of us are surrounded by millions of people, imagine bringing one of your prehistoric ancestors into the modern world. You show them skyscrapers, airplanes, the internet, billions of people living together. They would probably think loneliness must have disappeared. After all, there are more humans alive today than at any other point in history. Finding another person has never been easier. Yet something surprising has happened. Many studies suggest that loneliness remains a major challenge across the world. How can that be? Because your brain doesn't measure the number of people around you. It measures something far more ancient: belonging. You can stand in the middle of a crowded city, surrounded by thousands of strangers, and still feel completely alone. Meanwhile, a small prehistoric tribe of only 30 people could provide a stronger sense of connection than millions of online followers. Why? Because evolution never prepared us for anonymous crowds. For millions of years, your brain expected something different. A small group, faces you recognized, people who knew your name, people who noticed when you disappeared, people who would share food if you failed to hunt, people who would protect your children if something happened to you. That was the social environment your nervous system evolved for. Today, many of us interact with hundreds, sometimes thousands, of different people every week. But many of those relationships remain brief, transactional, anonymous, useful, but not deeply personal. Your ancient brain quietly keeps asking the same old questions. Who is my tribe? Who will stand beside me when life becomes difficult? Who truly knows me? Those questions haven't changed in 200,000 years. Technology has transformed communication, but it hasn't rewritten evolution. A video call can help. A text message can matter. An online community can create meaningful friendships. But your nervous system still responds most strongly to genuine trust, real cooperation, shared experiences, feeling understood. That's why one meaningful conversation often feels more satisfying than hundreds of casual interactions. Your brain isn't counting conversations. It's measuring safety. And perhaps that's the biggest misunderstanding about loneliness. It isn't proof that something is wrong with you. It's evidence that your brain is doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. It's reminding you that humans were never meant to survive entirely alone. So the next time loneliness quietly appears, instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" perhaps ask a different question. What is my ancient brain trying to protect? Because hidden beneath that uncomfortable feeling is one of the oldest survival systems our species has ever evolved. And without it, human civilization itself may never have existed. The next time you feel lonely, remember this. Your brain isn't punishing you. It's sending a message written over millions of years of evolution. A message that once guided our ancestors back toward warmth, safety, and one another. Loneliness may feel painful, but that pain exists because connection mattered enough for evolution to protect it. In a strange way, the feeling we often try hardest to avoid may be one of the reasons humans became the most cooperative species on Earth. So here's a question for you. If you had lived 200,000 years ago, do you think you would have survived alone or depended on your tribe like everyone else? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden evolutionary stories behind everyday human behavior, don't forget to subscribe to Sketching Humanity. Because every ordinary thing humans do has an extraordinary story behind it.